Mo, welcome. Thanks for coming in, bro.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
No worries. You got a pretty the reason I want to talk to you is because I figure you got a pretty interesting story. Like it didn't your sort of way of making it Australia, MMA, wasn't normal.
No, definitely wasn't normal.
So nothing you've done is normal.
No.
So I read that you grew up in Palestine. Where did you start in Palestine?
Well, actually, I didn't grow up in Palestine. I actually was born in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia. But I'm from Palestine. But obviously with the war that goes on there and everything that happened there, my dad and his family were kicked out of Palestine.
Why is that? Why did you get kicked out of Palestine?
So, it's a pretty complicated story, but essentially Israel had formed in the 1940s after the Second World War, and they started expanding.
Yes.
And part of that expansion meant that there were certain Palestinian families that lived in territories that they wanted, and my dad's family happened to be based just outside of Jerusalem. They had a big farm outside of Jerusalem, and in the 60s, my dad was about 13 years old. Israeli soldiers came with guns, and they just said, this is ours now, and they had to leave with nothing but the clothes on their back. So
because Palestine, so they live just out of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
This is before Palestine was formed.
No, but Palestine's been around for 100. Well,
it has. Okay.
Yeah, Palestine's been around
as a sovereign state.
Yeah, as a sovereign state for a while. The history is quite complicated, but just to simplify it, essentially, Palestine, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, they were all known as a Shem. Mm-hmm. And then after the colonial powers came, they split up that area called a Shem into Palestine, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. And now, obviously, you see all the different wars that are going on in that part of the world. So Palestine was its own state in its own right. After the Second World War and after the gruesome tragedy of the Holocaust and what happened to the Jews in Western Europe, there was the Balfour Declaration, which was after the First World War in 1917. I think the Balfour Declaration was created, which stated that they wanted to create an independent state for the Jews. And they wanted it to be based in their biblical homeland, essentially, which was Palestine. So after the 1940s, a lot of Jews came from Western Europe to Palestine and settled. And at the time, they were welcomed in. Obviously with all the horrendous things that had happened to them in Western Europe, there was no ambiguity. Anyway, they started to begin to expand. They started taking more and more land, and eventually, my dad's family were one of the victims. And they had their farm taken away from them, and they had their livelihood taken away, and they literally had to walk from Jerusalem into Jordan.
How far would that be? Like
hundreds of miles.
I've got no context.
Hundreds of miles.
It's a long way.
It's a long way.
Yeah.
And they just had to, with nothing but the clothes on their back, they just had to march into tents into a refugee camp in Jordan, and that's where my dad spent a few years there. And then Black September happened in Jordan, and that was basically the king at the time of Jordan just opened fire at all these refugee tents. There was too many refugees coming in from Palestine, so my dad's family then moved to Egypt, and that's where my dad kind of grew up, and he went to university there, and then he became a doctor against all the odds, and he got his first job in Saudi Arabia, and that's where I was born. Obviously, the stories about him in Egypt and how he grew up in Cairo and how he became a doctor. I mean, he didn't own a pair of shoes till he was 15 years old. They were really poor. So he used to walk around barefoot. He used to, when he lived in Jordan, he used to walk through the desert about 3 miles to get to school, barefoot through a desert, which you can imagine it's pretty tough. His dad wasn't around much, not because his dad didn't want to be around much, but his dad was
through necessity more than anything.
Yeah, through the necessity. His dad was working. Initially, his dad was in the army, and he was fighting in the Egyptian army, the Palestinian branch of the Egyptian army. And in the 1970s, there was a big war between Israel and Egypt. and my granddad was quite high up in the army. So out of safety, my granddad couldn't be home very much. So it was a lot of struggle for my gran to look after these 13 children. Yeah.
There's another spanner in the works. 13 children.
Yeah. So she, so they, and I remember when I was first born in Mecca, even though my dad had somehow become a doctor, which, when you're a refugee, you don't own anything, and you're in the Middle East, and there's a lot of discrimination over there. You know what I mean?
It seems so unattainable to get to that level.
Yeah. It is unattainable, and he was the first ever person from his tribe to become a doctor. That there was no one before him. Because it was almost impossible. When he got his results to get into university, in England it's A levels. I don't know what you guys call it here, but it's you're basically when you're 16 to 18, those exams that you do that define what you can do in university. Because he was a refugee, some rich Egyptian family bought his results from the school.
How does that work?
So he got
a certain result.
I think it was something at the time. He got the third highest mark in Egypt. Yeah. In his A levels. Yeah. Really smart guy. You know what I mean? And he was in a class of like 300 other students, but he would revise under candlelight. He would buy candles. So when they didn't have power in the house, he would still be reading his book. He'd still be studying. Like he was that disciplined. He wanted a better life for his family. That's what he always had in the back of his head. That's what he wanted to do. And when he did his exams, he got I think it was like a 99% overall or something. And an Egyptian family, a really rich Egyptian family, just went to the school and just bought his results. Said, "Yep, here you go to the school. We'll take those results, and then he can have our son's results, which weren't as good." So my dad didn't get into medical school because obviously they bought his results. Now, obviously at the time, my granddad, just to put it comparatively, I'm the smallest one, size-wise, in my dad's family. I'm tiny compared to every single one of them.
Holy
and
shit!
It's demeaning, how bad it is. It's they're 6'7", 6'8", giants.
Really?
They've got.
Is that common for that part of the world? Are there big people over there?
You'd be surprised. I mean, look, the Middle East is a very diverse terrain. You've got it expands all the way from Europe all the way down to India, China, and Africa as well. Yeah. So I feel there's nowhere really more diverse than the Middle East. If you were to see my mum's really, really white and pale skinned. My sister has blue eyes. My other sister has green eyes. Yeah.
It's a real melting pot, isn't it? By this day and age, it's a bit of a melting pot of all different
different things.
Influences.
And where I'm from in Palestine and that area, Syria, Lebanon, the Mediterranean Sea runs through there. So you've got everyone down from Italy, Greece, and all, and Palestine. They're all along that same coast. So obviously there was a lot of trade over there. There's a lot of mixing of the gene pool there. So a lot of people in that part of the world, Lebanon, they look Greek, they look Italian. You know what I mean? That's where all the blue and the green eyes come from. Yeah. So it really is a big melting pot. There are obviously some smaller families, but then you've got some absolute giants mixed in there. And my dad's family are just
giants.
Just giants. My uncle has like size 17 feet. It's just huge.
Where do they all live now? Are they still over that area of the world, or are they?
Yeah. Most of them still live in that area of the world, and a lot of my dad's family actually live in the Gaza Strip itself.
Yeah.
Which obviously there's a lot going on there, but they live mainly in the Gaza Strip, and so obviously at the time when they bought my dad's results, my granddad, commander in the army, really hard. I mean, he'd retired by then, but he's tough as nails. You know what I mean? He obviously wasn't happy. You know what I mean? Because he'd sacrificed a lot for his son.
That's awful. That's an awful thing for your child to have to go through too, especially knowing the hard work they'd put in.
Yeah. Especially knowing where he'd come from. You know what I mean? Like he'd be in a class with 300 other students and one teacher. He would walk 3 miles to get to school barefoot through the desert, and then he's worked so hard, and then just some rich family just comes along and just takes everything from him like that. So my granddad wasn't happy, so he went to the school and he took every teacher hostage, locked them all in a room.
No way.
And he just, he just said, no one's leaving this until he gets his results back. And they've not filled me in on too much of the details of what happened, but I can imagine it
legally we won't digress too much.
But things happened, and my dad got his results back. But that's how you live in that part of the world at that time.
So it's just rogue law. That's just what has to happen. If someone can come in and bribe the results, then we're going to play like that.
Then and it's ballsy as well, because my granddad's still a refugee in that country. You know what I mean? I mean, for him to do that was real ballsy. But this is what a parent would do for their child. You know what I mean? And that's what had to happen. So my dad then managed to go to medical school. After that, he went to medical school. He graduated.
Was that an Egyptian one?
Yeah, he went to Cairo, and he did medical school in Cairo, and then he worked in Saudi Arabia. And I was born there. I was born in Mecca. My two sisters were born there. We used to live on the 26th floor of an apartment, and there was no clean running drinking water in that house. So like once a week, a big lorry would come, and my dad would walk down the stairs, and we'd carry this big barrel of water, and that would be our drinking water for the week. It was like a 1-bedroom house between the 5 of us. You know what I mean? We'd all sleep in kind of like the same room. And my dad just thought to himself, I can't let my kids. I want a better life for them. He was a doctor, but he wasn't getting paid as much as the other doctors, because again, he's a refugee, and this is part of the discrimination that he had to face in the Middle East. A lot of the discrimination that he faced was actually from other Arabs. It wasn't even outside state; it was other Arabs discriminating.
What's the reasoning for that? Do they have a reasoning, or is it just?
Well, a lot of the Middle East is run by dictators.
Yeah,
and a lot of the Middle East is run by dictators that toe the line that Western foreign policy sets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Saddam Hussein was only ever in power because he was put in power.
Yeah.
And he was supplied by weapons from America and Britain. And when they had the chance to take him out after the first Gulf War, they didn't. They left him there. You know what I mean? And obviously everyone knows about the Iraq War and the
escalates from there. Yeah.
And it escalates from there. And the same with things like Hosni Mubarak, who was the Prime Minister of Egypt. He was apparently a general election that he would win by 99% for 40 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes. And that's a scary part of the world. If you think about like all of the United Arab Emirates and then like the Middle East, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
I used to think Russia was the scariest part of the world.
Oh,
but I think about that place and just think like especially the dictatorship and things like that.
Oh,
it looks, and like the money. Yeah, the money talks in that area. You see, like the princes and
the money really does talk in that area, and there's so many dictators there. You're constantly reminded about, if you ever go to those countries, every shop, every poster, there's always a picture of the king.
Really?
Or the president. There's always every taxi there's a picture of the king in the back. You know what I mean? It's just to let you know.
There's some ego shit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Just to let you know who's in charge. At
all points.
At all points.
The boss.
They're always, just because it strikes fear. You know what I mean? If every corner that you turn there is that king or president's face, you know who's in charge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the way that the those kind of places are. And a lot of those dictators, you know what I mean, they were put into power by a lot of Western intervention and colonial intervention, and they've just stayed there. And as long as they toe the line, as long as they continue to sell oil in the dollar, and continue,
because at their core everybody's controlled by somebody else in that industry. So if you think you're getting to someone, you've got to go through that person.
100%. 100%.
So that must be tough for your father as well. Like, was it 26th, 27th floor, getting water, and then because you as kids probably just thought this was normal. Like, oh, this is cool. We're all sort of
I mean, look, like for me, like it was a great childhood. Like I remember when they used to come, this big lorry and would have all the barrels of water in, and we used to get excited because they would also have these like. Have you ever seen Capri Sun? Seen the little Capri Sun, those little like foil packets of juice?
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So they used to have that, but it wasn't juice, it was just water. It was these little like packets of water.
Yeah.
And they used to hand that out to the kids.
Yeah.
So we used to come down, and there'd be this big lorry, and my dad would come, and, you know, I used to think he was the strongest man in the world, you know, he'd be carrying this big barrel. And we would be like putting our hands out like this to get the attention of the guy off the lorry, and then he would give us these little packs of water. Yeah. And, you know, you would shove one underneath your top or down your, you know, down your pants, and then you'd go and I didn't get one, you know, and you just keep grabbing. You know what I mean? And then, you know, you'd be the cool kid who had like, you know, 4 or 5, you know, packs of water. That, and I look back at that, and I just it blows my mind, because I go, we used to get that excited about water.
Yeah, fresh water.
You know what I mean? Yeah. We used to just get like, it used to be like a highlight of the week. That's what we used to love to do. And you know, all the kids in you know, we all used to play together and whatnot. And you know, you got to remember, like at that time, the good thing is about growing up poor in the Middle East, is that a lot of people that are poor, they're very religious. Yeah. You know what I mean? So obviously it can go one way, and they can be really extremists, and things can go things can go but that they're usually born out of extreme situations, i.e. in the middle of a war or death, and that's when people turn to that kind of thing. But with us and our thing, it just, people are really, you know, religious, and people care about community, and they care about each other, and
some of the nicest people in the world too.
But you know, everyone's home was open. You know what I mean? Like that gets
misinterpreted too when people think about like Muslims or people like that in the Middle East. They think it's everybody's over there bombing each other.
No, they're not.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, like when I go back down to the Middle East, I don't go often, but when I do, like, you know, like every door is open down the street. No one locks their doors. You know what I mean? There's just that sense of community. You know what I mean? And it was like that there. You know, there was just a lot of love between everyone. And you know, we were all poor, but we were all poor together. You know what I mean? It didn't really matter. And you know, my dad just thought to himself, I need a better life. So he did his exams that would allow him to work in the UK. Obviously, you know, my dad's a genius, so he just smashed those exams, and he got a job in the UK, and he went there initially first, and then we came up after him like 6 months later. But again, you know, the whole, you know, immigrant refugee thing, you know, he never got a permanent job. You know what I mean? He would just be, there's a 6-month post here, so he would go do that for 6 months, and he would take us with him, you know. And then, you know, they wouldn't offer him a job because they'd give the job to somebody else. And you know, at first I thought, maybe that's just the way it is. But when I grew up and the older that I got, and I see how good my dad is at his job, I'm like, there's no way that you would have this guy working for you and not offer him a permanent job. And you know, so we were moving around initially. When I moved to the UK, we were moving around from city to city every few months. It was really unsettling. Obviously, when we first arrived, I was 4 years old. I didn't really know how to speak English, and you know, going from school to school, there was a lot of bullying. I was getting picked on quite a lot. You know, because obviously my dad worked a fairly decent job. We went to a fairly decent school, and it was a lot of middle class kids who'd never seen somebody like me before. You know what I mean? And I couldn't really speak English that well, so there was a lot of, you know, I used to get picked on and bullied on quite a lot. And you know, my dad would always have to come into school, and you know, he'd pick me up because I'd got you know, scratched up, or I'd been fighting, or whatever, or you know, they sent me home and this, and it was tough, man. It really was tough, like, you know, growing up like that. Eventually we moved to a town called Middlesbrough, and my dad worked in the obs and gynae unit there, and the guy who was the in charge boss in the obs and gynae unit, he was like, this guy's really, really good. He was like, I want him to stay on. Now my dad wanted to be a vascular surgeon, but you know, I'd say, but beggars can't be choosers. You know what I mean? He just had to take what was given, and this guy gave him an opportunity to say, look, you can stay here, we'll train you up and whatnot. And then you know, 10 years later, my dad becomes partners with this guy. He's no longer his boss, he's now partners. And then I think another 5-7 years after that, he retires, and my dad becomes the boss of the IVF unit, the fertility unit at the hospital. And now my dad's fertility unit is the most successful fertility unit in the whole of the UK. It has the highest success rates in the whole of the United Kingdom. He has people that travel 6-7 hours just to come
Yeah.
thing. He travels around the world doing
Because for that thing, you want to go to, well, most medical things, you want to go to the best, but especially that thing.
Yeah,
when
it's expensive.
It's expensive, and it's something that's so dear to people's heart. Like, you're dealing with desperate people.
Yeah, you are.
In that industry.
Yeah, you are.
At least I would think so.
Yeah, you would. So the success rates for IVF is, the national average in the UK is 24%. My dad's clinic average is over 40%.
Yeah.
So there's a significant, it's almost like a 1 in 2 chance from a 1 in 4 chance. You know, it's a
sort of in the space of, what was it, 15 years, 20 years, goes from someone who can't hold down a job to someone with the most successful
clinic in the whole of the UK.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
And especially a guy who didn't even own a pair of shoes till he was 15 years old. And, you know, now he flies, you know, I think he was in New York the other week, and he was doing talks there and teaching other doctors. And he flies back to the Middle East. He does voluntary work over there, and he does free consulting work for free. You know, he's a real inspiration, and he's one of my inspirations. You know what I mean? I look at him and I just think, like, you know, as successful as I've been in my life, it just pales in comparison. You know what I mean? Like, when I became a doctor, you know, I just thought to myself, like, my dad sent me to private school. He got me tutors. Like, if I didn't become a doctor, like that would be, I'd feel ashamed.
So that's the reason you became a doctor?
Part of the reason. You know what I mean? I just looked at my dad and I went, you know, this is a man who, when he grew up, the world, you know, the world would turn away from him. You know what I mean? This is a man.
It's not that long ago, eh?
It's not that long ago.
Really, especially you being bullied because you're a foreign person who no one really has seen before, understands.
Yeah.
What was it, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
It's not long.
It's not long, no.
At all.
No.
See ya. Brutal.
Yeah. And you know, like I would you know, I would see my dad and I would see, like, you know, the what he overcame, and he overcame these things because he was just better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he wasn't just better, he was considerably better. He became so good that he became undeniable.
Undeniable, yeah, exactly.
And that's something that I always look up to, you know what I mean? Like, I just say with that, like, you know, you've just got to be undeniable. They can't deny you. You know what I mean?
It becomes a point, doesn't it? Where it's just...
Yeah, it becomes a point. And, you know, like, you know, even at work, my dad would still be getting, you know, stick at work, you know what I mean? When his partner retired, you know, the hospital wanted my dad to reapply for his position. You know, they wanted to find a new boss then. You know, my dad's like, I've been the joint boss for like almost 10 years. And, you know, I have to reapply for my position. I got this, Yeah. He was like, you know what I mean? And it's stuff like that where, like, you know, you just think to yourself, like, you know, what does this guy have to do? You know what I mean? And then you know, and it just goes to show you, like, you know, they wanted to put his position on the line, but the most successful clinic in the UK, like there's no one better in the UK than him.
It defies logic, doesn't it?
It defies logic, yeah. But this is what he has to put up with. You know what I mean? And I always look at that and I always say, no matter how difficult it gets for me, no matter how tough it gets for me, my dad's undeniable, and he still gets denied. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm not undeniable yet, you know what I mean, and I get denied all the time. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean. It's a never-ending process. This thing, and you know, look, I mean, it's not to say that, you know, it's been miserable or whatever. Like, I love England. I love my country. You know what I mean? It's home for me.
Is it a from the outside looking in? Mm-hmm. I guess we only see. I mean, I've been there before, but only a couple of weeks. You know, like I wasn't there. I didn't get a good. I didn't really experience the culture. Like, I didn't live there 6 months where you could go to school, be educated, do sport, whatever. Is there still heavy racism in England? Because more people from the Middle East. Yeah, because that's pretty much who cops it, really, isn't it?
I mean, there's a large Indian Pakistani community there. Yeah, true, there's a large black community there as well. It's really diverse in the UK. There are some parts where, you know, it's fairly open-minded and there's not a lot of racism, but there's some places where, you know,
you just don't go.
Not that I don't go. I mean, you can go anywhere in the UK. It's never that bad. But you know, like I remember even when I was playing rugby, you know what I mean, in my mid-20s and stuff like that, you know, I'd still be getting racist chants, you know what I mean, on the sidelines and stuff like that. And, you know, it'd be tough sometimes because, you know, I'd leave the field and I'd just say, like, what you know, what more do I have to do for this, you know, for to be accepted? I've represented this country on an international level in sport. Yeah. My dad has been responsible for over 10,000 children being brought into, British English kids being brought into this world that never would have been brought into this world if it wasn't for him. We are tax-paying, law-abiding citizens of this society, and yet I can't play a game of rugby with my mates without getting discriminated against.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough sometimes, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, what more do I have to do? You know what I mean?
It's lack of intelligence.
It is a lack of intelligence.
Because they just don't understand. If you sat there one-on-one and spoke to them,
yeah,
they'd be like,
the one that always gets to me is when they say, "Oh, go back to your country," and that always makes me laugh, because it was England that handed over my country, to the Jewish immigrants of Europe. So I don't have a country because of you. You know what I mean? And then you're telling me to go back to the country. I'm like, can you not see the irony in all of this? Like, I wouldn't be here if it was. I wouldn't be here if it was for you. You know what I mean? And that's what I always find. And you know, it's not you know, it's. And like I say, it's, you know, sometimes it is difficult, you know what I mean, with certain things that happened. You know, I remember, like, you know, I was away for 3 months traveling, and I came back to the UK, and, you know, I came home. Obviously my mum wanted to cook me a meal because I'd been away for like 3 months, and I just said to her, "Oh, hey, I'll go pick up the groceries." So I was walking down to the shop, literally been back in the UK for like an hour or so. And I remember as I was walking down the shop, someone threw like some milk at me from a car and called me an N-word. You know what I mean? And I was like, you know, here I am, so happy to be back home to England, my country, and this is the welcome I get. And you know, it just kind of like, you know, it's moments like that, you know what I mean, that really get to you. You know what I mean? But
make you sit there, go, wonder why I missed home. You know?
Yeah.
Where had you been traveling?
I've been over in the States. I was working with disabled children there. I was looking after them during their camps and stuff like that. So I was doing a bit of. It was kind of like, I mean, it's
like Camp America thing.
Yeah, it was like Camp America thing. Yeah. So it was tough, man. It was tough. But you know, like I'm not, you know, I'm not sad. You know what I mean? I'm not one to complain. Like, you know, I get that. I'm in a very unique situation, and I, you know, for all the racism and all the hate that I've received, I've also received a lot of love. You know what I mean? Some of my best friends are, you know, who people I'd consider family are English, and they're white through and through. Yeah. But you know, they've been there with me since day one. You know what I mean? So, you know, I don't look at it and go, it's an us versus them. I say it's an us versus the ignorant. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Hugely.
Because, you know, you could be ignorant, you could be white, black, yellow, purple, blue, you could be whatever, and you'd still be ignorant. So yeah, like, you know, it's just, it is what it is.
But it's character building too, isn't it? You know, like, it gives you a good lease on life when it comes to, you know, I find people who get discriminated against the most understanding people. Yeah. And that's confusing to me.
Well, I feel it's made me a better doctor. You know what I mean? Like, because I know people look at me and they judge straight away. They already have a preconceived conception of me.
Well, you're a textbook.
Yeah, I mean,
large Middle Eastern. You know, you got a beard. You got a big guy. It's like you probably walk into some people, you know, some little old lady in a beard. You probably think, holy shit.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's happened a few times at work. I mean, there's been times where I've walked in.
You do that to yourself a little bit.
I've you know, I've got the stethoscope on. You know, I introduce myself. I take bloods off a patient. I examine them. I take a history, and then, you know, they look at me and they go, "Oh, you know," had this one old lady. You know, she looked at me and she was like, "Oh, you know," this is after I've examined her and taken the bloods and everything and took a history. And she's looking at me. She's like, "You seem to know a lot for a security guard." And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I do. I was like, I'll call the doctor. He'll come in right now. Yeah. He's a twin. So don't be surprised when you see him. You know, so like, it's
awesome. She must have just thought, oh, I can't do anything about this.
And I felt really bad. You know what I mean? I was like, did I not make it clear? Yeah. You know what I mean? That I was the doctor. I mean, I'm dressed like every other doctor in here. Like, it must just be her idea where it's literally like, you know, she can see the doctor, but she can't see it. You know what I mean? She doesn't want to see. She doesn't want to believe it. You know what I mean?
And being an older person, they're sort of stuck in their ways a little bit, and they just
I mean, it's funny because like sometimes you still get it. Like, you know, there's a couple of patients who, like, say, who've, you know, a couple of older patients who've, you know, got a little bit of dementia. You know what I mean? Not quite all there, and then they go and, you know, they'll turn to you and they go, "I don't want that nurse to come near me." I'm like, "Which one?" They go, "The black black one. And I'm like, oh, you're gonna get a pleasant surprise when you know what I mean, when you find out what I am.
You must have all the stories that I was in there one night, and there was a lady. I was in the what's the ward, I guess, A&E, in the ward and everything there, and there was a chick next to me. Yeah, was like just took off all her clothes. Yeah. Like I think she must have been naked underneath her gown or whatever it is. Took that off and just was storming up and down the corridors, and security like chased her that way, and she came back on the other side of the nurses and chased her back that way. And I remember thinking to myself, holy shit, this must just be the place to work with, like.
There's a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on. And that's what I do. I do emergency medicine. I work in ED, and it's always there's a lot of weird stuff that you see. And there's a lot of intriguing stuff, but that's what makes the job so good, you know.
Must be, and I also look at doctors and think it's tough. Like, you're seeing everybody when they're sort of at their worst.
Yeah, you do. But you know, this is why I love being a doctor, because it's in those moments that you can really have a connection with another human being. Yeah, they're at their most vulnerable. You know what I mean? Yeah. And because they're at their most vulnerable, they become open because they need the help. Yeah. So they tell you their biggest fear. You know, they'll look at you and they'll say, "Am I gonna die?" You know. Yeah. They'll look at you and they'll say, "How long have I got left to live?" And that's, you know, the patient putting themselves in a very, very vulnerable position. And it would take years of knowing someone and hanging out with someone and all these life experiences for them to get comfortable with you to tell you these things. Yeah. But when you're their doctor and they're in that vulnerable position, it's almost an instantaneous.
It's all out on the table.
It's almost an instantaneous connection, and it's this ability where you can form this really deep human connections with these people, and I do that on a daily basis. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it means
fulfilling. Wouldn't it be fulfilling?
Yeah, it is. It's fulfilling, and it means a lot. You know what I mean? And I get to really sit there and experience the human experience. You know what I mean? Of being human and mortality every day. You know, I get to experience it, and it's always humbling, and it always reminds me. You know what I mean? That life can be taken at any moment, and it also, you know. I never, you know, if someone cuts me off in traffic or this, I never swear, I never get angry, you know, because I just think to myself, like, you know,
your issues are nothing, compared to some of the stuff you just left.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know what, so what, he's cut me off, you know what I mean? I'm not going to get to my destination, you know, it's going to take me an extra 5 seconds to get to my destination. Is that really going to impede on my day? Yeah. Probably not. I've just seen a 13-year-old kid with cancer, you know what I mean? Like, you know, so I know who's got the real issues. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's why, you know, that's what I'm always grateful for.
I remember hearing a coach, a sports coach, I think it was a rugby league coach, saying that, like, how are you dealing with the pressure? And he said, I don't have pressure. He goes, I coach a professional team. Yeah. He goes, I have a little bit of pressure. I said, there could be a person in the stands that's got on their last, you know, on their last legs or same thing, got their teenager who's got cancer and just bringing them out for a thing. He goes, that's pressure. Yeah. I don't deal with pressure. Yeah. You know, that must be when you get out of what I mean by that is when you get out of the hustle and bustle of the hospital. Yeah. Gives you an appreciation. You look around and think, oh, I've got it pretty sweet, really. I've 100%. 2 arms, 2 legs. Yeah. Healthy person.
2 arms, 2 legs. Honestly, you'd be quite surprised at how many people don't even have the function of 2 arms and 2 legs. Yeah. So, like forever, you know, that job always makes me forever grateful. It always makes me forever humble. You know what I mean? I understand. You know, I'm just a mere mortal, and at any moment I can die. At any moment I can become unhealthy. Yeah. And you know, it also, you know, it ties back into, you know, who I am as a person. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've been vulnerable in society because of where I'm from. You know what I mean? I've had no rights because I was a refugee at one stage in my life. And working in a hospital, you get to see how vulnerable human beings can be. And I've kind of got this experience of living in a world that's made me be very vulnerable and work in a job where you see people very vulnerable. Yeah. And I have this appreciation for
big time.
For life, like, you know what I mean?
I never thought about it like that. That you've almost flipped the switch, haven't you? Yeah. You're you know, you've got power now. You've got power to help people who are vulnerable. Yeah. That'd be scary. So why did you pick the Gold Coast to come through then?
So
of all the places, you come from.
Yeah.
Granted, we have the sun here, and in England you don't have it, but
yeah,
we pretty much don't have it.
yeah, we don't.
And then you get to come somewhere sunny. Was that the reason? Like, did you want to?
So I mean, the reason why was I was competing a lot in Jiu Jitsu, and I just won the European double gold European no-gi title, and then I went and did the Worlds and got the bronze medal as a blue belt, and I was working like 80-90 hour weeks, and I was still training, but I wasn't getting on them. I was only getting on the mats once or twice a week, and I still managed to go to the Worlds on my own, and medal. I managed to go to the Euros and win double gold. And I thought to myself,
was that open and absolute? Was it?
Yeah, the absolute in my weight category. And I was thinking, like, I've done this against guys who train every day full time, and I'm doing this on the back of 80-hour weeks. I was like, what happens if I had a bit more time off? What could I do? What could I achieve? And then obviously I looked at the options, and in Australia there was, you work a lot less hours and you get paid a lot more.
Yeah.
And I just thought it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, I just thought I'd go over there. Because I didn't want to make the leap and just go train full time and do a bit of work, agency work as a doctor here and there. I still wanted to have a bit more experience as a doctor. I wanted to be firmly established as a doctor.
Because it's a huge experience-based industry, wouldn't it be, being a doctor?
Yeah. So I've now worked, and I'm still currently working full time, but I've worked over 4 years now as a doctor, and I feel that I'm fairly competent now, and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if you leave me in an emergency department, I can pretty much handle 95% of things pretty competently on my own, which is a good stage to be at as a junior doctor. And I made the decision to move to Australia. I applied for a job, I got a job, and I've been here ever since.
That was why the Gold Coast though? Because the metropolis is like Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne.
Yeah, well,
obviously a lot more job aspects.
Yeah, there's a lot more job aspects. I think the reason why it was the Gold Coast was because I thought, if I'm moving away from home and I'm this far away from home, why would I move from one city to just another big city?
Yeah,
I want to experience a completely different culture, and obviously the Gold Coast is a very unique culture. It's a beach town. You know what I mean? We don't have beach towns in the UK, so I thought this would be a completely different experience from anything that I've ever experienced. So I thought I might as well do it.
How jealous your family?
I think everyone is jealous because I mean, it's like 30-degree heat all the time. There's beautiful beaches, the weather's amazing, the locations amazing. There's so many great new buildings and things to do here.
It is happening place. Like,
it's amazing.
More,
it's an amazing.
It's getting more and more happening as it goes. Like you said, like more building, more infrastructure, everything. All these new things are always popping up.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why everyone wants to come and visit. I find they don't have to go home as much because everyone wants to be here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you're just going backpedaling a little bit. You go to university. You obviously play footy, rugby during high school. Yeah, I did. I mean, it's a bit of a strange story because obviously I didn't go into MMA or Jiu Jitsu or anything like that. I originally started as a rugby player. Yeah. And as a rugby player, what happened was I was at school. And I got expelled from school. Your dad was thrilled.
Yeah. I mean, I was a bit. It was partly me, but at the same time as well. I think my parents probably didn't really understand. They're first generation immigrants. They didn't really understand. The English schooling system or how things were, what I mean? They didn't really get the culture, so they didn't really understand, when I'd go into school and stuff like that, I remember coming in, finding my stuff in my locker being thrown in the bin, and you know what I mean, people not wanting me to play at lunchtime, football and stuff like that, and just people saying horrible, kids spreading rumors about you and stuff like that, and it was really difficult. And I remember, because I was even though I was, in my first few years at school, I was obviously a lot younger than the older guys, and between the ages of 11 and 16, there's a huge difference between an 11-year-old and a 16-year-old. A 16-year-old is practically an adult, whereas an 11-year-old is still a kid,
still a child. Yeah,
this is a child. So when I'd when there'd be fights at school, it'd be like this 16-year-old kid and his other 16-year-old pals beating up me, who's 12 years old. You know what I mean? I was a child fighting against grown men, and I remember at one stage at school, like the Asian kids or dark skinned kids, they'd come to my class at the end of school and they would want me to walk home with them because they were getting worried that they might get beat up. So I would, I'd take it as an omen. I'd be like, yeah, you can walk home with me, I'll look after you. But all that happened is it just drew this kind of like this challenge, you know what I mean, to these older bullies. I remember once I walked home from school and I got jumped on by about like 6-7 guys, you know what I mean, and they just beat me up. I mean, I kept getting up and I kept fighting back, and you know what I mean. I'm crying my eyes out, but I'm still, I'm still standing up. I'm still going, and because I remember what happened. They had this. There was this, Asian kid. He was a bit short and he was a bit chubby, and they had him like, up against a wall, and they were like going, "Oh, I heard you said this about us or this about us," and it's just like absolute
manufacturing conflict.
Yeah, manufacturing conflict, because absolute scumbags. Like, this guy is like, he's tiny. There's 3 or 4 of yous, and you're all huge. He's tiny. He's fat. He's obviously a bit of a geeky kid, and they're all rough. You know what I mean? And I remember just, like, as they were like really closing in on him, and you could see, when they escalate the conflict, when you see the kid, they're pushing them, and as soon as the other person might like, push them back by accident or like try and get away, then they start throwing things. And I saw them like really backing into him, and he had nowhere to go. He was up against the wall, and I just thought, I can't let this happen. So I ran in and I pushed them away from him, and I went, "Oh, leave him alone." and then they all then just started punching and kicking me, and I thought, it's me and this Asian kid, you know what I mean, we're gonna do it. I turn around and I'm like, hello.
Oh no!
Oh shit!
He's left you.
Shit! It's just me.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting beaten up pretty badly that day. And that's what it was like. Eventually, I was a bit of a. I decided to retaliate. So I was retaliating. I wasn't.
The worst thing about school is you got to show up again tomorrow.
Yeah, you got to show up again.
Same guys, waiting for you.
Same guys always waiting for me. And like. Again, and this is the other like part of the puzzle that people don't understand. Like, when you come as an immigrant to a country, I don't have my family here. You know what I mean? I don't have my cousins and my uncles, and it's just me on my own. So these kids, if they had a problem with me, they would tell their cousin, they would tell their uncle. You know what I mean? They would tell this, and they would all be there. You know what I mean? And it would be countless.
You just need to get a photo of your father's family. Say, hey fellas, these guys are here next week. This morning, because I mean, if my cousins were there. Woo!
Different story. It's a different story. We're talking about 6'6", 6'7", 15-year-olds just walking around the place. You know what I mean? But I didn't. I was on my own, and they would always come, and anytime there was a problem, they would bring more, and it was just me on my own against this mountain of bullies, and I just it never worked out well for me, and eventually the school expelled me. Which I thought was crazy, because it was me getting bullied, but it was easier for them to throw me out than it was to throw out all these bullies. So they were just like, let's just throw him out. And I look back at it and I reflect on it, and I always think to myself, like, could I have changed anything? You know what I mean? Was I at fault in any part of this? But I'm like, I think about it and I go, for whatever reaction I had, there's like 20 of them.
Yeah,
and there's one of me.
You're still a child too.
I'm still a
child. You didn't know how to handle that.
Yeah, I don't know how to handle that. No one was stepping in. I remember, back in 2003. Actually, you got to remember when I started secondary school, like high school, it was 2001, and it was September the 5th, 2001.
Yep.
1 week into starting school, September the 11th happened, right? And
look, timing.
Timing, and we just became public enemy number 1. At school.
For everybody was looked at strange.
Everyone was looked at strange.
From where you're from was looked at strange.
And then in 2003, 2 years later, and I was only like 12, 13 years old, the Iraq War happened. And the whole invasion of Iraq and this and I remember walking through school, and they would have like newspaper cuttings of like the Iraq War, and they would have like these displays and stuff like that. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is just mad. You know what I mean? Like there's so much here, like anti-Muslim, like, anti-Middle East rhetoric going on at school, and it rubbed, people were like calling me terrorist and this, that, and the other, and you know, it wasn't, you know, it was like rough to be a part of, you know what I mean? And that's how I had to go through school. And then eventually I got expelled, and I got expelled halfway through the year. So my dad was like forced to put me into a private school. And it was when I went to a private school that things began to change. Because when I went to a private school, obviously, you know, the kids weren't as rough. You know, the kids were also, you know, a lot of them had a silver spoon in their mouth. You know what I mean? They wouldn't know a conflict if it hit them in the face. So
not so rough and tumble at a place like that, is it?
Yeah, there's not a lot of rough and tumble. So there wasn't as much discrimination when I went to private school. And then you know, the rugby coaches there were like, "You're a big guy, you should play rugby." And obviously, me coming from a state school, I was like, "Oh, rugby's gay," you know what I mean? Guys touching guys. It's not for me, you know. Me thinking this is, you know, being.
Little do you know you'll be doing Jiu Jitsu in a few years' time.
Yeah, little did they know that I'm so comfortable touching other men now. It's ridiculous. So then we went in, and you know, we. They just let me play, and then like after a few months they let me play for the school's first team. So I was like 16 years old, and I was playing for the under-18s team. And then within like 7 months I had England under-16s trials. I didn't quite make the cut. And then after that, you know, I went back to state school to finish my A levels, and I played like local rugby for my local rugby team, Middlesbrough.
Yeah, so do you play because in Australia, New Zealand, things like that, it's all school up until you finish school. But do they still have club teams at a younger age? Yeah,
they still have club teams. Yeah. So I was playing club rugby, like for Middlesbrough under 15s, under 16s, under 17s, Colts. And then and then I kept on playing rugby. I applied to get into then medical school when I was 18, and I didn't get into medical school first time around. I got straight A's, and I didn't get into medical school. And I remember when I did my first set of A levels, I fell ill with TB. I was pretty badly sick with TB, and which is pulmonary tuberculosis.
Yep.
So and that was like, I think it was like 2 months before the exam. And when you get TB, you're on antibiotics for 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months antibiotics.
That stuff knocks you around even then, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you know you're on I think something like 14 different tablets a day for 6 months. 14 different, like, you know, tablets and antibiotics for 6 months. It was pretty freaking rough. But you know, I went into the school, and I was like, look, I'm really ill. I've got TB. You know, my exams are in a few weeks, and I want to do medicine, and you know, you can't fail. Yeah. If you want to do medicine, you have to get straight A's. I was like, is there any way we can have some consideration, delay my exams, something? The school were like, nah, you know, you know, it doesn't. You're just gonna have to resit the year. And I was like, I can't. You know, if I reset the year, there goes me doing medicine. You know what I mean? And obviously, you know, the background of where my dad was from and everything. I was just like, you know, to be hit with TB, and you know, TB is not something that you would expect to get living in a first world country. No. But obviously, I was born in a third world country, and you know, I was vaccinated, but I don't know how good the vaccinations were in those places.
Does that make you more susceptible because you've lived there, or just purely because of the vaccinations?
I really don't know whether I just, you know, I wasn't vaccinated properly or whatnot. But you know, I just you know, I'm a refugee kid, and I somehow managed to get TB when I was 17. Obviously, something's fucking going on here.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes the vaccine doesn't work for everyone. So hey, I could have been well vaccinated, but it just didn't work on me. I don't know. Yeah. But
you got it.
Either way, I got it, and you know, that was, you know, you've gone from being expelled at school and going to a private school, and you know, building yourself back up to all of a sudden now you're a few weeks away from doing your exams to get into medical school, and you know, you've got TB, and I'm on all these different antibiotics. I was coughing up blood, and I was not in a good way. And you know, my mum will tell you that, you know, she used to come into my room, and you know, I knew she was really worried about me, but what I would do is I would, because I'd have to take the medication in the morning, I'd take the medication, and it would just knock me right out, and I would sleep, and then I would wake up at night, and I would just study all night. I'd, you know, 12 hours, and I'd be so exhausted because I'd be coughing as I'm writing my notes, and you know, blood would come out, I'd have to start again, you know, because there's so much blood on the thing. And I did that, and then eventually, you know, when it came time for the exam dates, you know what I mean? I was still on antibiotics. I was a little bit better. It had been about 6 weeks, but I was, still dizzy, head spinning, struggling to breathe.
Yep.
But I went in, did my exams, and I got, I think it was like the highest mark at college for my biology. I got like a 98% average. Yep. And I got straight A's, which was, considering I was really ill to still get straight A's, I'd overcome quite a lot there, and despite all of that, I didn't get into medical school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
what did they expect you to do?
And that's the thing, but I looked at it and I just went, it's a little bit of adversity, that I'm going to have to get through, but we're going to have to.
I hope you didn't go complaining to your dad.
And that's the thing, like I can't. My dad was disappointed. He was like, and obviously they're old school Middle Eastern, Arab parents. So he was just like, why are you not good enough to get into medical school? I'm like, Dad, like, you know what I mean? I had TB, I had TB. I still studied. I still got straight. I got the highest mark in biology, and I couldn't even breathe. You know what I mean? Imagine if I could breathe, what I could do. You know what I mean? And. So I took a year out, and I reapplied again, and then eventually I did get in. I got into Liverpool Medical School, and I went there. I wasn't really. I was only playing club rugby. I wasn't playing any kind of representative rugby. When I was at medical school, I remember thinking to myself, I don't really want to play rugby anymore. You know what I mean? I'm not going anywhere with it. You know what I mean? But when I arrived, and it was the fair. The freshers fair they call it, which was all the first year university students all walk around, and there's all the different societies that, I'll come join the debate society, come join cheerleading, come join.
It's very American, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like that in the UK, you know what I mean? When you first start the first week, there's a lot of these like fairs, and everyone wants you to join their society. So there was the rugby society, and there was a coach whose name was Ken Cohen, and he comes up to me and he's like, oh, you're a big guy. He was like, have you ever played rugby before? And I just lied. I just went, nah, I never played rugby. I thought that would. And he went, look, I'll pay your registration fee, but just come to training tonight. And I thought, Jesus, all right then. If he's going to pay my registration fee, you know what I mean? We'll see what it's all about. So I went to training, and I started playing with the second team initially, because it's like you got to earn your right, you know what I mean, as a first year. But after about 3 games for the second team, I'd scored that many tries as a prop. Like, let's give them a game for the first team. I just kept scoring tries for the first team, kept performing really well, to the point of where my coach was like, look, we're all really impressed with the way that you're playing. We want you to go down to Sale. We've got you a trial at Sale Sharks. Yeah. Sale Sharks at that time had won the Premiership, like 2-3 years prior.
Was that the regional... professional regional competition?
No, Sale Sharks is a professional team. They play in the Premiership, and they wanted me to go over there and have a try out for the team. And it was an academy game, so it was Sale Sharks under 19s against Leicester Tigers under 19s. And at the time for Leicester Tigers, there was like Manu Tuolangi was playing, George Ford was in the team. At Sale Sharks, there was a lot of guys that had representative rugby as well, but pretty much everyone in those 2 academies, because they're pretty big rugby teams in the UK. Those two teams, they were just full of youngsters who had played representative rugby. England under 20s, Wales under 20s, England under 18s, Scotland under 18s. They just were, and then there was just me, who was just a guy who'd come from Liverpool University, not even a prestigious rugby university. Yeah. So I went to the game. I was meant to be on the bench, and the prop that was meant to be starting was sick that morning, so then I ended up starting. I ended up getting man of the match, and the Sale Sharks coach at the time was Jason Robinson. And he who's the rugby legend, England rugby. He scored a try in the Rugby World Cup 2003 against Australia. And
I know who that bloke is.
And he just came up to me and he went, I'm really impressed, son. He goes, we'll see you at training on Monday. I was like, shit, I don't have a car. I don't my boots are held together with tape.
How far away is that from where your university was?
So Liverpool, Manchester is like a 50-minute drive, but I didn't have a car, so I'd have to. The way I used to get there was I would get the bus from Carrington Lane. I'd get the bus from Halls at Smith Down Road in Liverpool. I'd get it all the way to town in Liverpool. I would then get the train from Liverpool Lime Street to Manchester Piccadilly. I would then get the tram from Manchester Piccadilly to Sale. I would then get the bus from Sale to Carrington Lane. I would then have to walk a mile inwards, because in Carrington Lane is this really long road, and that's where Sale Sharks train, but it's also where Manchester United and Manchester City train. It's where their training grounds are. So it's like kind of like hidden off, you know what I mean, from public eye and whatnot. And there was like no real buses that used to go through there, so I'd just walk like a mile and a half to get there. And obviously at the time as well, I was only a student, so all my money that I had was going to pay for train tickets and bus tickets. And you know,
downtime too. It wouldn't have been a lot of downtime.
No, there wouldn't. So I'd be getting up at like you know, because training would start at like 8, so I'd be getting up at like 4:30 in the morning, maybe even earlier. And what would happen is as I'd be getting up to go, because I was living in halls and it was first year, everyone would be coming in from nights out, so everyone would be drunk and this and that, and I'd be like, you know, with my rugby bag and, you know, getting up, I'm still tired. They're all like, oh, Mo, how you doing? Where were you out tonight? You know what I mean? And just, you know, it was like that. And, you know, the discipline that I had to have just to, you know, not to not get distracted by all that. And then I'd get the bus, I'd get the train, and then the tram, and then the bus, and I'd walk, and, you know, and that's how it was for like a year or whatever. But, you know, I just wasn't getting the love at Sale. You know, they would play me in games, but they would prefer their guys that they'd brought up through their academy rather than this new guy. So so then like, you know, later on that year, the England students team were trialing everyone from different universities to see who'd get into the team. I managed to make it onto the team. It was a long selection process, but I made it to the team, and then I got, you know, I had 3 caps then for the England students team. We played in Portugal, we played in France, in Paris against the French, and obviously we played down in London as well. And at that point I got scouted by Leeds, and Leeds Carnegie were like, yep, come along to training. And I came along to training, and then they put me on this like provisional like kind of like contract to just train for pre-season and play the pre-season games. Once I played the pre-season games, they were like, yep, we're really impressed. And then they gave me my first professional contract. So I signed my first professional rugby contract. I remember at the time I didn't tell my dad, because, you know, I was at medical school at the time, and you know, what do I tell my dad? Oh, by the way, Dad, I've just signed a professional rugby contract in a different city from where medical school is. Don't know how it's going to work, but you know what I mean? I just thought, go with it. So I didn't tell my dad, and he found out because there was just so much mileage on my car. Like, he would look at the car and he'd be like, how's this guy done 30,000 miles in the space of like 3 months? What's going on? And then obviously, you know, the truth comes out that I've been commuting from Liverpool to Leeds, and Leeds back to Liverpool, and here and there and everywhere. I just signed the contract. I didn't tell my parents. My dad wasn't very happy. And
did your studies struggle because you're full-time rugby?
No. So I played a full year professionally, and I was starting for the team. But the way it would work was, I mean, my life was basically, this was my life for like 2 years. Is I would get up at 4:00 in the morning. I would have my breakfast. I would then drive to beat the rush hour traffic to get to Leeds, and I'd be in Leeds for like 7:00. Start training. I'd finish training, and I would leave around midday, and then I would drive back, and I'd be on placement at uni. So I'd go to hospital, and I'd be in placement in hospital for a few hours. I would then leave. I would go to the library. I would study. I would then go home. I would wash my clothes, cook my meals for the next day, and I'd go to sleep, and I'd be up again, and it would be like this and I'd be doing 200 miles a day driving, and you know, and
so all your professional rugby contracts going towards fuel, basically.
100%. I mean, a lot of it was going towards just paying for fuel and whatnot, but you know, I still made a bit of money, but like a lot of it was like that. And you know, like, I look back at that time in my life, it was a pretty difficult time, because, like, you know, when I was playing rugby, you know, it's obviously a professional rugby environment. I'm still a student, you know what I mean? So like, even though it's professional rugby, I've kind of got this mindset where I'm just a student who happens to be playing professional rugby, and I just also happen to be starting for the team. And a lot of the guys that were in the team that had obviously come through the academy and would train every single day, and I wasn't training every single day. I'd be training every other day or something. You know, that was my agreement with the team, and I was still getting picked ahead of them, and that caused a bit of issues within the team. They were like, "This guy doesn't train full time. Why is he playing? And this guy's 20 years old. Why is he playing? We've got seasoned veterans here who train every day, and they're not getting their game, but this kid is." So there was a bit of problems with that, and you know, like I don't want to say too much about, you know what I mean, what happened, but there was a lot of bullying, and I wasn't, you know, it was tough for me, you know what I mean, because I remember days I'd come in and I would find my bag was in the bin. You know, people would throw my bag in the bin. Like,
professional rugby team.
In a professional rugby team, my bag was in the bin. I remember I'd come in and, you know, in training as we were on the training pitch, when they were passing the ball, they wouldn't pass to me. I remember once we were doing a defensive drill, and it was only touch. It was only a touch defensive drill, so you touch and then you have to put the ball through your legs and you keep going. And I remember once I touched this guy, you know what I mean, and he was playing in my position, but I was getting picked ahead of him, and you know, I just touched him, and as I touched him, he just elbowed me right in the face, and I just looked at him and I went, "What are you doing?" You know what I mean? It's non-contact. Yeah, I was very naive because I didn't even, you know, I was so young and naive. I just thought, oh, maybe, you know, he doesn't know, but he did know. But he elbowed me in the face, and then he started punching me, and then other guys jumped in, and then they started punching me as well. And then you know, and then like, you know, the coaches were like, "All right, everyone, calm down, whatever, blah blah." And I'm like going, it's not a thing to be calmed down. They've just all attacked me, you know what I mean? But I had to put up with this, you know what I mean? And you know, the only thing that I'd always tell myself is, I'm getting picked ahead of these guys. Yeah, that's why they're frustrated. So I'm just going to keep playing well, keep smashing it, and there's nothing that they're going to be able to do about it. You know what I mean? But that was part of the reason of why my downfall had happened, because I'd hurt my shoulders, and I could feel my shoulders were always, it was pretty painful during the season, and you know, my shoulders were really hurting, and I didn't want to tell the physios and the conditioners and the coaches that my shoulders were hurting, because I didn't want to get dropped because of all this shit that was going on. So I've never really this is the first time I've really diversed into this. You know what I mean? I just tell people, "Oh yeah, I played professional rugby. I got injured in it." I never tell them the real reasons of what really happened to me. But I feel enough time has passed that, you know, there'd be no hard feelings if I talk about all this. But you know, I didn't want to give those guys the satisfaction. You know what I mean? Of me not playing and them playing and their bullying working. So I kept gritting my teeth and grinding through. You're adults too, and that's it rears its ugly head even then. You know, like, for whatever reason, whether I don't know whether there's racism involved or anything like that, but probably a lot of competitiveness, and if the person's ahead of you, you got a target on your head, and especially in your own team. My own team. And you know, it was real difficult for me. You know what I mean? And you know, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, you know, when in my life am I ever going to be accepted here? I was just like, what can I do to be accepted? There's nothing that I've done. You know, I was just like, no matter what I do in life, no matter what I accomplish, I'm still getting bullied. You know what I mean? And especially in a team where you're meant to be a team, where like everything's you're backing each other. You know, like that's what it's meant to be. And it was I mean, and it was tough. It was awful. But I didn't tell anyone about my shoulders. And then, you know, I think it was after the season had ended, we were doing weights at the gym in the club, and my arm was shaking as I was dumbbell pressing, and my conditioner went, "Something's not right here, Mom." He went, go see the physio. And the physio did a couple of assessments, and he was like, "Yeah, I think we need to send you in for an MRI scan." So I got an MRI scan the next day, and they were pretty good, my shoulders. They were really bad, and they were like, "You need surgery." So I ended up having surgery. But the problem was I just finished doing my written exams. Passed them with flying colours. You know what I mean? I'd finished in the top 20% of the year group. So I was playing full-time professional rugby, and I still finished in the top 20% of the year group. But then when it came down to do my practical exams, I had 2 broken shoulders, and it's a 4-hour practical exam. I just couldn't get through it, and I ended up failing. And I ended up having to retake the whole year because of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But, I was still having surgery after surgery, and I ended up having 4 surgeries on my shoulders, and I ended up having like 23 months of rehab. And I look back at it now, and it's such a strange feeling, because I think to myself, like, all the surgeries and everything that I went through and the resitting the year, it all stemmed down from being bullied.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not wanting to let them win.
Yeah.
But if I just let them win, and I had someone look at my shoulders, maybe it only would have been 1 surgery, I would have been okay. Maybe it would have been rehab and I would have been okay. Maybe I still would have been
It's tough to think like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you think
maybe I still would have been a professional rugby player. At the time, I was 20 years old. I wasn't training full time. And
it didn't really sound like your heart was in it from the outside looking in.
So
you probably enjoyed rugby.
Yeah, my heart wasn't in it when I tell the story now, because my heart's not in it.
I see. Yeah.
But back then, my heart was in it. You know what I mean? It was the
so there was no consideration to giving up medical school or pausing.
There was a big consideration, but I think given my background and where my dad had come from and all the rest of it, I didn't want to give up medical school because, this is for him. You know what I mean? He wanted us to go and live a better life in a first world country, because he wanted us to be educated and he wanted us to have a... That
said though, you're still in no rugby teams in Palestine, or Mecca. There's no... Yeah. You're here because this is an opportunity you can take because of where you've come from and because of where he's enabled you to be. So I guess there's that way of thinking too, where you could be like, well, it's not as if I'm giving up on this, because that's going nowhere.
And tell him that though.
I won't. If he's as big as you say he is.
It just didn't happen. So, it was. It is what it is.
I understand.
I ended up having to reset the year, and when the new coach came in, they changed the forwards coach at the team. And the new forwards coach, obviously, he's not the one that scouted me. He's not the one that saw me play. He's not the one that, had belief in me. Because there was the first coach. He was like, when they offered, because at the end of the year they offered me a contract extension, so they gave me another. So I signed my second professional contract, and he said, we've not offered a contract to a lot of other players in your position in the team, but we're giving you one because you've got the X factor. He goes, you're a special player. He goes, there are things that you do on the rugby pitch that we just can't teach. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, you know what I mean? That's the first time in my life that I've really had somebody, say something like that about me. You know what I mean? Because before it was always like, when it was bullying or the racism, and I remember thinking to myself, this moment here has made all the bullying that happened in the team and all the problems. It's made it all worth it.
Yeah.
And
So you didn't? Did you play the second year?
So I had my surgery.
Surgeries, yeah.
And then I then had to have another surgery 6 weeks later. So I had 2 surgeries on my shoulders. It was then January when I was coming back to fitness, and then again, because there was so much pressure from the team. Why are you playing him? He doesn't train full time. He's coming back from injury. So they sent me out on loan to a lower league team, which I thought was just like, I just thought it just wasn't fair. You know what I mean? I was like, I was starting for the team all of last year. You know what I mean? I'm the starting prop.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that I should walk straight back into the team, but I'm saying that you should give me a chance to get back into the team.
Yeah.
But you just sending me out somewhere else, you know what I mean, to go play somewhere else, and even because you'd have like the Premiership games or whatever, but then you would have like the Cup games, and that's when you'd play like the reserve team or the guys on the bench, and they wouldn't even pick me for the Cup games. Yeah. I'm like, how do you go from being the starting prop to like, and I've not. It's not like it's because I've been a string of bad performances or anything. It's literally because I've been injured. I've just had my surgery. So surely you would introduce me into the team, but they didn't. And I, played for some lower league rugby, and at that stage my heart really wasn't in it anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My heart wasn't in rugby anymore, and I'd be playing, and I think everyone just kind of saw me as a piece of meat. You know what I mean? And I was just, if I didn't perform well, part of it was because my heart wasn't in it, so my attitude wasn't, to games wasn't what it was before. but you know, and I can hold up my hand and say, you know, my attitude wasn't. It's not like I had a bad attitude. It's just my you know, I was a bit complacent. You know what I mean? But I don't think people really understood. You know what I mean? What was going on? You know, at the time, I obviously had to retake a year at medical school, which was difficult for me because I've gone from being a guy who had pulmonary tuberculosis and still aced my exams.
Yeah, how'd that get down with your dad?
Yeah, I tell you, it was hard for the family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and I've never really discussed it much with them because, you know, I kind of always, I just leave my parents on. You know, my parents don't really get a lot of what happens in life in this part of the world. You know what I mean? So I don't like to trouble them with the stuff that I go through. But, you know, my
especially if they knew by now you were playing rugby.
Yeah.
So they automatically attribute it to you not giving enough effort.
Yeah.
Naturally, that's how it's going to come across.
Naturally, they were like, "Well, you chose to play rugby." And I was just, you know, now I'm going, Dad, you know, I finished in the top 20% of the year in my written exams. I clearly knew what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was just unfortunate with this thing. And then at the time as well, my dad was diagnosed with cancer as well.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
So, you know, there was obviously with everything that was going on in the team and all the bullying and all that kind of stuff. I remember thinking to myself, I want to open up and tell my mum and my dad and speak to them about it because I don't know who to speak to about all of this. And I don't want to go speak to the team because I don't want to upset or rock the boat and not get picked. And I was like, as long as I keep getting picked, I'll put up with this. But I was like, you know, I can't go up and tell my mum and dad, you know, my dad's fighting for his life here. You know what I mean? And
it's the least of his worries, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm going, oh, Dad, I'm being bullied, Dad. Because he's going to look at me and he's going to be like, going, you know what I mean? Like, and we got discriminated against, and we didn't even own shoes and didn't have food to eat. You know what I mean? Like man up. You know what I mean? And
that's tough too. Also, like it's a little bit different dynamic now in life.
Yeah,
where men are encouraged to open up a little bit more about how they feel about things. Yeah. But when you've got a hard.
Yeah, he's tough. Yeah,
and like has reason to be, obviously, and also that's what was required.
Yeah,
but then it becomes difficult when you're trying to be a new age person as well to speak to people like that. It's not always the best. And then for like when you have kids and things like that, you think, oh, are they going to feel bad? Trying to talk to me. It's finding that happy mix.
Medium. It is tough. So you know, it was pretty tough with my you know.
So you just quit altogether after that. That was the last
season.
Well,
I was playing like lower league rugby, and you know, the team that I was playing for, they were paying me like £150 for a game, all right, but they were about like an hour away from Liverpool, so most of that money just went on fuel. Yeah, and I could have been paid a lot more to play for more local teams in the area where I was living, but you know, I'm a loyal guy, so I was like, oh well, you know, they took me in when I was injured, so I'm going to be loyal to them and I'm going to stick with them regardless of who offers me more money or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, the money that they've given me really isn't enough to cover petrol. You know, it covers petrol and maybe just like, you know, a little bit for like, you know, an extra 30 quid or something like that, you know what I mean, which is not really much. But I remember it was halfway through the season and they turned around to me and they were just like, not even like face to face, it was just a phone call. They called me up and they said, don't come to training tomorrow, we're not going to pick you anymore for the team. And the reasoning for that was because they weren't going to get relegated and they weren't going to get promoted. Yeah. So the last few games of the season were not really playing for anything. So they didn't want to pay me any more money. And I felt a bit hard to, like, you know what I mean? I'm more than just a guy that you pay, you know what I mean? I'm a human being, you know what I mean? Well, you know, I'm playing rugby. You made a commitment to me for the year that I'd played for the year. And now you're saying to me that you're not going to pick me because you don't want to pay me. And you know, you're not even paying me that much. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? It was such a kick in the teeth. And you know, and that was the last straw in rugby for me. Yeah. You know, that was the bit that broke the camel's back because I was like, you know, here I am sacrificing a lot for this team. You know, I'm getting paid. I'm getting a pay cut to go play for them. They're an hour away or whatever, and I'm doing that drive 3 times a week to play for them. And I'm not really getting much in return, but I'm being loyal because they took me in when I was injured, And now this is how they turn around. And I remember when I got that phone call, I was actually out for a walk, just walking around my neighborhood, and there was an MMA gym that was over the road from where I lived. I'd been there for I'd lived there for like 2 years. I'd been over there. Never once did I think about stepping into this gym. Then I remember just thinking to myself, you know what, screw it, man. Like, let me just do another sport. You know what I mean? Obviously, I like competing and I like being fit and healthy, but this isn't working for me. This rugby thing, like it's broken me as a man. So I stepped into this MMA gym, and the first guy I see is a guy called Jason Tan, and he's fought in the UFC before, and he owned this gym. And as soon as I walked in, he looked me up and down, and he went, "We're going to make you a world champion." And I just thought, this is an interesting sales pitch that this guy's got going on, but he tells this to everyone. But I did my first session. It was like they do an introductory session, which is a one-on-one private, and I did my one-on-one private, and absolutely loved it. Loved the jiu-jitsu.
There's a lot of parallels to rugby.
Yeah, there is.
To grappling, isn't there? Like that, just the tackling, the body control, and things like that.
Your hips and all that kind of stuff. And I just loved it. And I went in, and I was just like, this is epic. You know what I mean? I love it. And I would come to training every day. You know what I mean? I was getting back into it, and then there were other teams that were offering me contracts to come play for them. I just didn't want to play. You know what I mean? I don't want to play anymore. You know what I mean? It was as simple as that. I just don't want to play. And I'd come in, and after like 6 months, they were like, "All right, we're going to enter you into a jiu-jitsu competition, but we're going to enter you as a blue belt, even though you're a white belt." So, on the day of the competition, they gave me this blue belt. Didn't promote me, but they were just giving me it for the competition.
For the competition.
And I ended up getting quadruple gold.
Yeah.
I won my weight and open in the gi, and then I won my weight in the open in the no gi. So I got like 4 gold medals. My first tournament, you know what I mean? First blue belt jiu-jitsu tournament as a white belt. And I just kept competing from there. You know what I mean? Kept competing in jiu-jitsu, kept doing really well. And then eventually graduated from medical school, got my first job in Glasgow, went there, joined the Grip House gym. And there was a guy called Gary.
Glasgow, that's Scotland?
Yeah, Scotland, yeah. So I was working there as a junior doctor, and that's where I met my jiu-jitsu coach there was a guy called Gary. And, he's a heavyweight. And he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he moves like a lightweight. And me and him, we just clicked inside the gym and outside the gym. And he would coach me and he would teach me, and then we went from we had a plan and we put a few moves in place and we drilled them and we got good at them. And then I went to the European tournament and I got double gold in the European no-gi. And then it was like, it was 95 days to the Worlds. You're the European champion. You know what I mean? Why don't you go do the Worlds, Mo? And I was thinking, I'm not going to really do the Worlds. You know what I mean? This is crazy.
Holy shit.
And, so I
got the Brazilians and the
Brazilians are there, the Americans are there. So I worked extra shifts at work. So I was working, on top of the 80 hours, I was working even more hours to save up, to pay for my one-on-one coaching sessions, and also as well to to pay for my flights and accommodation while I was over there.
Worlds?
It was in Los Angeles, in America. So I went, I trained really hard for those 90 days. I worked extra shifts. I bought my plane ticket. I flew out and I went on my own. Competed, got the bronze medal. I was really chuffed at the time. I think it was the highest medal that anyone had got from Scotland. You know what I mean? I don't think anyone had medalled in the Worlds from Scotland, and I was the first guy to do so, which I was really proud about. And I was really proud to represent my gym, the Grip House, because they'd been really great with me. And it was at that stage after that I moved to Australia. I moved to Australia about 3 months after that.
So that was going from Scotland to Gold Coast. I can imagine
it was a life change. Yeah, it was very cold, different. Yeah.
And then because I guess jiu-jitsu and grappling and things like that. There's a gym everywhere now. So sort of as soon as you get to a new place, I'd imagine you go, I'll just sign up for where I got to go to. And you start. That's how you network straight away. Yeah. You get to know people. You get to
100%.
Yeah. There's no shortage of it out here.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
So that was the.
the transition.
Yeah, that was the transition.
Then you go on to, obviously, from grappling. That's one of the better, starting points for your MMA journey, I guess. There, and then you start with your striking, and you've struggled to find anyone to fight you.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've struggled for like over a year trying to find an opponent. You know what I mean? Like, we've offered fights to guys who are like 5-0 as amateurs, 6-0 as amateurs. But I think as soon as they know that you got a world medal in jiu-jitsu, they don't want to know.
Yeah,
I
I see that with like MMA. Usually the high level grapplers find it hard to get fights as opposed to the high strikers, because strikers grapplers will think, oh, I'll fight him because I'll just take him down.
Yeah.
But then if you're a grappler, I think the strikers look at it and go,
he's going to take me down.
He's going to take me down, honestly, on my back, yeah.
So it's been hard finding an opponent.
Yeah.
But, this opponent, I think this will be his like third or fourth fight. He's only lost once. He's 6'5", so he's a lot bigger than me.
Yeah.
He's also, I think he was drafted into the NFL.
Yeah.
From here, he had trials. He didn't quite make the cut, but obviously it means that he's pretty big and strong,
athletic, yeah.
And he's a wrestler as well. So, this guy's, it's almost like similar. He's very athletic. He's very big. He's very strong, and he's got a grappling background. So, obviously I'm going in with the disadvantages. He's bigger. He's had more experience, but it doesn't really faze me. You know what I mean? I've been competing at a high level in different sports for a while, and one thing I know is size doesn't really matter.
No. So how did your one thing I've been wanting to know as well, because the CT Fletcher, how did that all come about? Because that's a real random.
Yeah, well, CT Fletcher was there at the Worlds when I was competing at the Worlds. He came out there to watch me. So with CT Fletcher, I mean, it's look, he's an amazing.
He's iconic, isn't he?
He's iconic. He's an amazing human being, and I love that man. I really do. What had happened was at the time when I was in Liverpool, one of my friends, he owns like a supplement shop. It's called T Nutrition, and they do really, really well. They're one of the biggest distributors in the UK, and they always have all these, fitness industry stars that come and they do stuff with them, and because like say they have the rights to sell Muscle Farm products, and CT was sponsored by Muscle Farm, they would get CT to come because they're the exclusive distributors in the UK. So then they would have the rights for those guys to come, and they would look after them, and then when they would do those sport fitness expos and whatnot. So when he came and he did one of his fitness expos, obviously my mates were running the stall that he was in. So I was just like, oh guys, can I go meet CT? And they went, yeah, go meet CT. So I said hi to CT. I met him. We had a bit of a laugh and a conversation. Really nice guy. And then I remember when they were trying to get CT out of the building, and he was just getting swarmed. Like everybody wanted a picture with CT. Everyone wanted to meet CT. And CT asked if I could help him get out. So obviously I led the way. I helped him get out or whatever, and that became kind of like a thing. I became like CT's bodyguard for those events, and that happened for a couple of years. Like every time he'd come back to the UK, and obviously that kind of relationship kind of grew and it built up, and then eventually I said to CT, hey, look, I'm coming out to America. I'm competing at the Worlds. You know what I mean? It would be an honor if you can come watch me. And CT came. You know what I mean? He came, and not only did he come, I remember I was warming up, when I was about to go out onto the mats, and I was so nervous. You know what I mean? These guys were big. Former NFL linebackers were competing. Judo Olympians were competing in my category. Wrestlers, collegiate wrestlers, and then there's just me, a doctor, you know what I mean, full-time 80-hour-week doctor competing with these big boys. And as I was warming up, all I heard in the background was Mo, which one of these motherfuckers is coming in second? And it was CT, and he was just, he was the same, that CT that you see, he was just shouting and screaming, and, everyone on the sideline was, their coaches were giving them like real technical advice. They were like, get your hips under, move this arm, and then CT was just going, smash, smash. And so that was really cool, and everyone was like thinking, who's this guy? You know, does CT teach jiu-jitsu? Like, what the hell is going on? I mean, because his jiu-jitsu student is killing everyone. What's going on? So so that was really cool. And you know, and then last year when I went over to the States, to go do some training, and you know, obviously CT messaged me and he was like, "Oh, when you're in the States, let me know." And you know, I messaged him, and then he invited me over to Thanksgiving. So I had Thanksgiving with his family and whatnot, and you know, it was such a cool experience. You know what I mean? And that was after his heart surgery. And you know, he always messages me, he always calls me every now and again, and he always tells me that he's proud. He always tells me that he loves me, and he always tells me, you know, to keep doing what I'm doing. And it just means so much coming from a guy like him. You know what I mean?
It's huge. It's so cool. Yeah, to have someone like that, a point of contact.
Yeah. And he's so stoked for me to have my first fight or whatever, and you know, he wants me to do really well. And it's just going to be amazing.
Well, he's not going to make a surprise appearance, is he?
You just never know with CT what he's going to do. You never know.
Fine. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, geez, you've led a pretty interesting life, Mo. It's I didn't realise how deep it went. You know, like that's it's pretty heavy from the upbringing, and then it just sort of escalates, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is heavy, and there were moments of weaknesses and there were moments of difficulty, but you know, I'm forever grateful for all of those experiences, and it's made me who I am as a person today.
Yeah.
I don't have any bitterness or anger in my heart for anyone, any of my bullies that I had in the past, any of them. But you know, there's no hard feelings. You know what I mean? I try and look at the world, and I try and see that, you know, we all have our perceived ideas of the world. We all live in our own little bubble, and those people that had, say, treated me badly or whatever, you know, they're just doing the best that they can do with what they know. Yeah. And like you said, they're ignorant. So this is the best that they know. And the best that they know is to bully me, or is to pick on me, is to do this, or is to do that to me. So, you know, I don't look at them and say, you know, they're a bad human being. I look at them and I think they're just a misinformed human being. You know what I mean? And that's what led them to do what they did. So, you know, I don't hold any hate in my heart for them. I don't hold any resentment. I understand. And look, I mean, they hurt me. It caused a lot of pain in my life. It's, you know, made a lot of things difficult that have had residual consequences for a long, long time in my life. Yeah. But, you know, it's part and parcel of the experience of life. So I don't, you know, everyone that's come into my life, whether it was good or bad, you know what I mean? I just, you know, everyone's been there for a reason. There's always been a reason. There's always been a lesson. And I just take it like that, you know, there's nothing.
Well said, man. It's the best way to look at it.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks. Hey, appreciate you coming in. All the best for the fight. Yeah. I mean, we're watching keenly, and
thank you so much. And I just got to say as well, like, you know, I've got to say a big thanks to Lenny, Kent from Transition MMA, and Steve NG from Matrix Boxing. The gyms are together. Yeah. And I was really lost when I came here to the Gold Coast for a whole year. I didn't really have anyone that was coaching me properly, and it was a real struggle. You know what I mean? I moved all this way to try and train more, and there was just nowhere to train, no one to train me properly, and I really struggled. But those guys have taken me in, they've made me part of the family, and you know, I've improved so much. And you know, Lenny, my coach, my MMA coach, he's just been on the end of the phone every time I've needed him, every time I text him, every time I call him. He's always there. He's always reassuring me. He's always putting his body on the line for me when I don't have training partners to come train with me or anything like that. And you know, Steve's always there with a watchful eye, making sure that I'm doing everything right. You know, introducing me to sparring at the right time, sparring the right people at the right times, building me up. And you know, for all the negativity that's happened, for all the times that I've had coaches that say weren't there for me, whether it was rugby or whether it was, and you know, I've had some great rugby coaches before in the past, but there's been some that have not been so great. And for all those times, you know, these two have come in my life, and they've, you know, they've really helped me develop as a person, not just as a fighter. And this is why this fight means so much to me, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to just do this for me. You know, this is the first chapter of me turning a stone, turning a page in a book and just saying, like, look, all of this that's happened and all the injuries and the 23 months of rehab and the 4 shoulder surgeries and moving and all that kind of stuff, it's all going to come to an end. That's part of the thing, and we're going to start a new chapter, and that's going to be this fight on Friday the 1st, and I'm going to make a statement, and I'm going to show everyone that I'm ready for this sport, and I'm ready, and you know, and it's thanks to these 2 guys, and I feel really lucky and privileged that I've got them 2 in my corner. And you know, and Mark Hunt is flying in from from Sydney. He's going to be in my corner as well, and you know,
inspiration there.
I couldn't think of a better corner for myself. You know what I mean? I couldn't think of a better corner that you know, that's going to be behind me when I go out into battle. So I'm really looking forward to it. It fills up my heart with joy. You know what I mean? That I've got those people behind me. So, you know, I just it's important for me to just give them a big thank you.
Yeah, big time. Absolutely, all the people that help you, because it's not as much of an individual sport it is. Yeah. You got to have people around you, good people around you too. Yeah, you got to have people around you, and yeah, like I've got some really great people behind me, and I'm really thankful. I'm really lucky, and you know, don't get me wrong. As much as we've talked, you know, obviously I come on here, and I didn't want to go as deep as I wanted to, as deep as I went today. Yeah, I wanted to keep it really light, but you know, I think you know, the more I grow up, the more I feel it's important to share these stories, because you know, we've only just touched the surface. There's a lot of other things that have happened, a lot of other things that go on, but I think it's important, you know, the reason why I do sports and the reason why I want to compete and I want to get to a high level is because I want to give a platform for people like me and people where I'm from and my part of the world, and I want, you know, my story and my people's stories to be heard. And I think it's important that, you know, we go out there and we tell the story, you know what I mean, and me competing and doing well at a high level and stuff like that, it allows me to come on podcasts like this, and it allows me to go and tell my story and tell the story of my people's struggle, you know what I mean, and it's, you know, what I want to do or what I want to inspire is I just want to let people know that you know, I might look different, I might act a little bit differently, but I'm the same, you know what I mean? I love my country, England, as much as anybody else, you know, it's home for me. I just want to be accepted, you know what I mean? And even if I fail at this endeavor, I just want it to open up the doors for other people, you know what I mean? Because I know what my parents were like. They don't want me to do sports and stuff like that. They were always very against it, but I want to lead a way for people who are in the same position to say, look, man, you can be who you want to be, you know what I mean? And this outdated way of the way that, you know, where my people are from and the way we should act and should behave, you know, it could be different. You can be a doctor and a cage fighter. You know what I mean? It's not usual, but it's not impossible. It's not usual, you know what I mean? But it's not impossible. You can come back from 4 surgeries, you know what I mean, and win a world title after being dropped from losing your professional rugby contract. You could lose your sports scholarship at university, and you can still come out with that degree, and you can still get a great job at the other side of the world, living by the beach. You know what I mean? All of these things are possible, and it's only possible through hard work. And there's always hardships that you go through in life, and there's always people that are going to drag you down and pull you down. But it doesn't mean it's the end of the road, and it doesn't mean that it's not worth it. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that Friday the 1st, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to put on a performance, and I'm going to show everybody what all this hard work is about, and it's going to be the start of hopefully something really special. Man, I appreciate you. Well said. It's inspiration, man, for especially people from where you're from and in your situation. You know, that's huge. And look, I hope it gets to as many people as we can. And I appreciate you and cleaning. Anytime, mate, you're welcome back anytime. It's good. I'm sure we can crack open some more of those stories further on down the track. All the best, Mo. Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.